Today's daf is daf Zion, and we're learning in Agadita that a person should not impose too much fear on his family and the repercussions if he's makbid too much and he's matil ema on his bnei mishpacha. Omer Rabbi Abba li olam al yatil adam ema yisera b'toch beiso sharei adam gadol hitil ema yisera b'toch beiso vechilu davar gadol. Now, davar gadol is a davar iser chamur, and as a result of the ema that people had, in this case his servants, he was served something that was a very serious iser chamur. Umanu, and who is this person? It was Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel. So the Gemara says hachiluhu sal kedai. They really feed him, and Rabbi Chanina ben Gamliel ate something that he wasn't allowed to eat. Hashta kal v'chomer behemton shel tzadikim ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu maybe takol al yadam, and a behemoth will not eat something that's osur, and that's the famous sugya in Chulin on Dafav of the chamor of Pinchas ben Yair, who wouldn't even eat from Tamai. Is tzadikim atzma lo kol shker. HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects the tzaddikim to make sure that they shouldn't be nichshal by eating something that's osur, but rather ella bikshu leha'achilo davar gadol. They wanted to feed him something that's asur, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the end of the day protected him. But that's how dangerous of a situation it was. And therefore, what is my nidu? What is this davar asur? Evrim and achai. That's what happened when the avodim of Rabbi Chanina shechted something, an animal, and one of the large pieces of the meat of the animal got lost. They were so afraid, they were tsittering, because they thought that their master would certainly be opposed. So that what they did is they ripped off a piece of live flesh from another animal in order to be mashlim that which was missing. I have trouble from people that are cursing me and they're giving me such tsaras. But I have the ability, I could be a moser, and I could tell the Malchus that they are guilty of some serious crimes. Ma'u, am I allowed to do such a thing? Sirtate. Now, in response to Mar Ukva's question, Rabbi Elazar is going to write him a pasuk in Tehillim, and we learned already earlier that Rabbi Yitzchak paskin that you cannot write more than 3 or 4 words of a mikra without sirtut. So sirtate, he took a niyar and he made a sirtut out of a kasav, and he wrote him the pasuk, Amarti eshmira drachai mechato bilshoni. And David HaMelech says that I will be very careful not to sin with my mouth. Eshmira lefi machsom bi'od rasha lenegdi. Meaning, afal pisha rasha kenegdi, eshmira lefi machsom. I will muzzle my mouth and not speak even though there's a Rasha who's making my life miserable. Now Mar Ukva goes back, Visholachle again sends him a subsequent question, Komitzareli Tuva. He says that the tsar that they're causing me is overwhelming. I can't tolerate it, I can't survive it. Sholach Lei Rabbi Elazar now quoted a different pasuk in Tehillim. Dom Lashem Vischolelo. What does it mean? Dom Lashem means wait until the Yeshua of Hashem is going to happen. Vischolelo, which means that V'hu Yapilem L'cha Chalolim Chalolim. Those enemies of yours will be destroyed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Just wait for the Yeshua Hashem. Hashkeim v'harev alem lebeis hamedrash. And what you should do is says Rabbi Lazar, is you should dedicate yourself to extra efforts in learning in the Beis Medrash, whether it's Boker or Erev, come early in the morning to learn in the Beis Medrash, and remain late at night to learn and study Torah in the Beis Medrash. And all this is indicated by the word dom, alluded to the word dom. The dom is miloshem mimdume chama. So when the sun is getting red, dimdume milashon aduma, in the morning and at night, that's when you should dedicate yourself to Torah. And what's going to happen as a result? Ve'im kol me'alehem. HaKadosh Baruch Hu will take care of it for you. Adavar yatzim in Rabbi Lazar nesanua ligniva b'kola. We didn't know the name of this person who was giving such tsar and causing such anguish and cursing out Mar Ukva, but now we know his name. His name was Gniva, and the Malchus incarcerated him b'shalshal shel barzel, so he shouldn't run away, and they condemned him to death. Now, in the Mishnah, at the end of Masechet Sota, it says that Misha Batla Sanhedrin Batla Shir, Mi Beis Mishpito, Hamishtos. In other words, the Mishnah quotes a pasuk in Yeshayahu Navi Bashir Lo Yishtu Yayin, that after the Sanhedrin was batel, that's 40 years before the Churban, and the Sanhedrin was exiled from Yerushalayim. From that point and on, the Torah prohibits, or the Nach, I should say, prohibits shir together with yayin. So in a Beis HaMishta where they drink yayin, it's asur to sing after the period of Golus. Now, truth be told, that during that 40-year period, from time to time, if it was absolutely necessary, since the Mikdash still stood during that 40-year period of time, the Sanhedrin would go back to the Lishkas HaGazis in order to judge what we call Dini Nefashos and condemn someone to death. But after the Churban Abayis, they couldn't go back to the Lishkas HaGazis, and that was the total beetle, the termination of Sanhedrin. And after that period of time, when Sanhedrin was batel, they made a gzera prohibiting song in a Beis HaMishta where they drink yain. Sholchu Mar Ukfa. The question was asked to Mar Ukfa. Zimra minolan de Asa. Where is the source in Tanakh that after the Churban Beis HaMikdash, you're not allowed to sing as they're drinking wine in a Beis HaMishta? Sirteit. So Mar Zutra sent back a pasuk in Hosea HaNavi, and he was misarteted because of law. Al tismach Yisrael el gil ka'amim. In other words, Am Yisrael, when they sin to Hashem, then it's not appropriate for them to have simcha al tismach Yisrael and gila as ka'amim, like the goyim do, when they sing in their batei mishtos. So the Gemara says, "V'lishlach lehu mehacha." What about the pasuk in Yeshaya? After all, the Mishnah Masechet Sota, Adaf Memches, quotes the pasuk in Yeshaya Chav Daled, "Bashir lo yishtu yayin yemar sheichel shosah." When Yisrael are punished and they have to go into exile, they should not be singing while they drink wine. Kederech hasmeichen, and this will be a symbolic gesture of their avelus on the loss of the Beis HaMikdash. So why didn't Mar Ukva quote the same pasuk that the Mishnah quotes? And the Gemara answers that Imeahu, if he had quoted that pasuk, Avaminan Emili Zimra Dimana, I would think that it's only instrumental. Awal Defuma Shari, but I would think that you're allowed to sing a cappella, meaning without any musical accompaniment, any instruments. Kamash Malan, this pasuk that Mar Ukva wrote from Hosea Navi proves that there's an all-inclusive isur of shir, including shir b'peh, after the Churban Abayis. What does the pasuk in Yoshua mean when it says Kina v'dimona ve'ad Ada? There's really no meaning to this pasuk unless it's referring to different cities in Eretz Yisrael, and that's the response that Rav Huna received from Rav Ashi, that Masvasa the Eretz Yisrael kachashiv. The pasuk is enumerating cities in Eretz Yisrael that belong to Shevet Yehuda. Amar le. So Rav Huna says to Rav Ashi, Oto anolo yadana de Masva the Eretz Yisrael kachashiv. When you thought that when I asked you this question, I didn't know that these were names of cities in Eretz Yisrael. Ella, but what was my question when I heard this pasuk? Rav Gvia Me'argiza, there was this pasuk I heard from a Rav by the name of Gvia, who came from a city of Argiza, and Amar Bat Taima, but I need some sort of drasha to understand what's in this pasuk. Is there a message in this pasuk that the pasuk enumerates the names of these cities? And the answer is, the drasha is that Kina, the word Kina, which is the first of the three cities, is kol sheyesh bo Kina al chaver. A person gets angry at his friend because his friend was mitzayir him, and v'dimona v'domem, but he's shosek, then va'ad ada. What is va'ad ada? Shochen adeyad HaKadosh Baruch Hu oselo din, and he's going to punish those who are mitzayir him. Amalei Rav Ashi said, Elmeata, let's take a look at a later pasuk in the same chapter in Yoshua where it says, Siklag umadmana v'sansana. It's hachinami. We have to darshan the meaning of these words. Amalei ihavi Rav Gvia mibei Argiza hacha. If Rav Gvia was only here, then for sure Havile Haviyama Beitama, he would certainly darshan and reveal the deeper meaning of these names, but he's not here. Rav Acha Mibecho Zomar Ba Hach. However, Rav Acha took a stab at these words in the pasuk, and he says, "Kol mishi yesh lo tza'akas legima al chavero." Now, the person has tinus on his friend, that his friend stole his parnosim from him. You know, he had set up a shop, and he starts yelling and screaming that this other guy, set up a competing shop right across the. And then the second word is umedamna. And what does umedamna mean? Vidomem, miloshen domem. So he doesn't say anything. Is then v'sansana HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the shochen b'sneh. He came down at the sneh, oselo din, he will punish his friend for illegally competing with him. And this goes into the sugya of illegal competition. Which is called Oni Hamahapich B'Charoro. Okay, now the Gemara spoke about singing and the prohibition after the Churban. Now the Gemara wants to know about other prohibitions, which is Ataros Chasanim. In the old days, before the Churban Abayis, the Chasanim would wear a beautiful crown on their head that was made of silver or gold with various artistic siyurim on them, and sometimes they made these crowns out of roses or hadassim. Amalei Reishka Lusa Rav Huna Klila Minola Da'asa. Klila is the Aramaic word for Torah. How do we know? Is there a source in the Torah and Tanakh that after the Churban Abayis we prohibit the chasan from these Klila, this Torah? Amalei, so Rav Huna responded, Midrabanan, there is no pasuk. It's a Gzera D'Rabbanan. This nan, I'll prove it to you from a Mishnah at the end of Sota. The fulmos shall Aspasianus, when Aspasianus took his battalions up to Shalim, that's before Titus, is Gazru al Ataris Chasana. The Mishnah says the Chacham made a gzera that they will not allow this beautiful crown on the head of the Chasan in order to be Mamayit B'Simcha. V'al ha'erus, they also made a gzera not to be Mashmiya Kol. They used to take various bells in the Beis HaMikdash and they would bang with the bells and make beautiful noises in a Beis HaMikdash. All this was prohibited. Adachi kam Rav Huna lafnuya. Rav Huna walked out to go to the washroom, and now Rav Chizda is there. And Rav Chizda is going to tell the Reish Galusa that, in fact, if you're looking for a source in Tanakh for the prohibition of Ataris Chasarav, I will find you one. V'yomer Rav Chizda, he says to Reish Galusa, the pasuk says in Yechezkel Hanavi Perek Chaf Aleph, Raksiv, Ko Amar Hashem Elokim, Hasir HaMitznefes. Mitznefes is the hat, the special hat that was worn by the Kohen Gadol. V'harim Atara, and take off the head this Atara, this crown. And then the pasuk says Zos Lozos. Okay, we don't know what Zos Lozos means. The Gemara is going to analyze that. And then Hashpola Hagbea, V'agavoa Hishpil. You'll take this shafel, someone who's down, and lift him up, and take someone who's lift him up and bring him down. All this will be explained by the Gemara. So now Rav Chizda has a kasha on this pasuk. What's his kasha? The pasuk begins with the Kohen Gadol, and then it goes on to the Atara. B'chima inya mitznefes, right, which is Big Day Kahuna. Eitzel Atara, in the same pasuk, you're talking about Atara. Atara, a crown, classically is worn by the king. When the Kohen Gadol is wearing his mitznefes, meaning the Beis HaMikdash is alive and well, then it's mutar atar b'rosh kol adam. Anyone's allowed to wear this beautiful crown. But nistalka mitznefes mirosh Kohen Gadol, after the Churban Abayis, and the Kohen Gadol is no longer serving in the Beis HaMikdash, he's not wearing the mitznefes, nistalka atar mirosh kol adam. No one's allowed to wear these atara, and therefore the chasadim are not allowed to wear this atara. Now, Tosfos, Dibra Maskal Ataros, wait, before we get to that Tosfos, actually, let me just mention that Tosfos Dibra Maskal Bisman, which, 1 second, which is the last Tosfos on the Amud, quotes the Riva that there's actually a difference between the word migbas, which is worn by a Kohen Hedjot, and a mitznefes, which is worn by the Kohen Gadol. And the Riva explains what's the difference between the two. The mitznefes was much smaller than the migbas, so that the hat worn by a Kohen Hedjot was larger. Why? Because the Kohen Gadol needed more space on his forehead for the tzitz. So therefore, the word mitznefes here, according to Rav Chizda's interpretation, is referring specifically to the Kohen Gadol. Adahachi Asa Rav Huna. Rav Huna heard the end of this discussion when he came back from the washroom, and all he heard was Rav Chizda's interpretation of this pasuk. Ashkechine Davi Yasvei, and Amalei Rav Huna says to Rav Chizda, Elokim b'lashon shvua, b'derabbanan, the gzera is only derabbanan. The pasuk in Yechezkel about the mitznefes, the Kohen Gadol, and the Atara is not referring to the Atara of the Chasanim, but rather the Atara, the crown that's worn by the king, in this case, Tzidkiyahu HaMelech. And that crown is going to be removed, and the people will go out to exile. Elachiza shmach v'chizdoyin milah. But nevertheless, your name is Chizda, And your words of Torah are chasudim v'noim, like kala nova chasuda, chasudim v'noim. Now, you asked a very good question. Why is mitznefes of the Kohen Gadol mentioned together in the same breath in the pasuk with the atara that's one on the top of one's head? Now, the Marsha says the following. How did Rav Chizda know to darshan that the meaning and the intention of this pasuk is to the Atorah Shebarosh HaChasanim? Pashtus, the simple, straightforward pshat in the pasuk is we're talking about the bittul of the crown of the Malchus of Tzidkiyahu, which is exactly the way Rav Huna understood it. So why was Rav Chizda compelled? But the answer is that Rav Chizda was bothered by a kasha in the pasuk, because the pasuk mentions together the mitznefesh al Kohen Gadol, and the mitznefesh al Kohen Gadol was only terminated, was only batel after the churban of Bayis Sheni, when the Malucha of Klal Yisrael came to an end and it terminated. That's when the Kohen Gadol, after the churban of Bayis Sheni, no longer would have the mitznefesh. But with regard to, I'm sorry, but I didn't say it right. So that's, again, as far as the bittul of the mitznefesh al Kohen Gadol, that was at the end of Bayis Sheni, meaning churban Bayis Sheni. However, in the same pasuk, asks Rav Chizda, you mentioned the bittul malucha. The bittul malucha of Tzidkiyahu was during Bayis Rishon. So that's what bothered Rav Chizda. How do you put in the same breath the mitznefesh and the atara when we're talking about Bayis Sheni versus Bayis Rishon? Ravina Ashkei Lamarbar of Ashi Davi Godil Klil Lebarte. Ravina found that Rav Ashi prepared an atara for his daughter's wedding. Omalesa Ravina says, "Lo Mar." What about the pasuk in Yechezkel? It says, "Hasira mitznefes v'harim atara." Omalei Mar. Rav Ashi responded, "Do me the Kohen Gadol begavrei avul benoshi lo." The pasuk is specifically talking about males and not females, like, for example, the Kohen Gadol. And therefore, as far as women are concerned, there's no issur. Now the Gemara goes back to the pasuk. What does the pasuk mean? Zos lozos. Darash Rav Avira. Sometimes he said it in the name of Rav Ami. Sometimes he said it in the name of Rav Asi. B'shosh Omar Kodesh Baruch Hu Yisrael Hasir Mitznefes Varim HaTorah. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu declared that Klal Yisrael are going to be sent into Golus, there's going to be a churban, they'll have to remove the mitznefes, which terminates, and the atara. I don't understand. Zos lahem shektimu lefanecha b'har Sinai nasa v'nishma. This is the way you treat your children, your people, who accepted the Torah at Har Sinai with the words nasa v'nishma. Is that what they deserve? Amalahem lozos. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu answered one rhetorical question with another rhetorical question. Lozos lahem liyisrael sheshpilu es hagavoa v'igbiu es hashofel v'midu tzelem beheichal. Is this not what the Jewish people deserve? After all, they took something so gavoa, so high, and supreme and lofty, the covet of Hashem, and Hishpilu, and they brought it down. And then what did they do with something shafel, like a tselem? Higbiu. They raised it to such a level that they would worship it. Dorish Rav Avia Zimnin Amala Mishmei Rav Ami Zimnin Amala Mishmei Rav As. What does it mean in the pasuk in Nachu? Ko Amar Hashem im shlemim. So we're going to dash the word shleimin. V'chein rabim, we'll dash in the word rabim. V'chein nagozu v'ovar. We'll have to figure out what nagozu v'ovar means. And v'gomer, you see the word v'gomer? The last three words in the pasuk are not quoted here in the text of the Gemara. Lo a'encha od, v'lashon inui. Im shleimim. If you see a person whose mizonos are shleimim, what does it mean shleimim? It means his income is exactly the same as his expenditures. And that's called mitzum tsamim. He has exactly l'chol tzrachav k'dei mechyasa. But he doesn't have any money to give to others and fulfill the mitzvah of tzedakah. Yasa mehem tzedakah. He's nevertheless obligated to give tzedakah. We'll see in a minute what kind of tzedakah he has to give. And then the pasuk says v'chein rabin. And what does that mean? If he has enough money, he's got an increment of money beyond his needs, his expenses, he must give tzedakah. What does it mean? V'chein gozu v'avar. He cuts out parts of his nechasim. For what purpose? He will be saved from Gehenna. And that's what it means in the pasuk v'avar. V'avar means he will not stay in Gehenna. Maybe he'll be there for a short period of time. But mashal l'shtei rechelos. Imagine the case of two sheep, shahayu ovros b'mayim, and they're passing through the water to get from one side to the other. Achas gzuza, one has no wool on its body, because they already sheared off the wool. So it's like a lightweight sheep. The achas ain't gzuza. The other one is heavily laden down and burdened with its wool. Zuza avra. The one that's been sheared of its wool, and therefore it's very light, it will successfully go over the river. But she'enik zuzal over is not going to make it. The weight of the body of the sheep that's full of wool on it will bring it down. And the nimshal is that Misha gozes mikaspo tzedakah, he cuts out, money for tzedakah. Then over v'nitzol midina shel Gehenna. Over means he'll be able to pass over the water like the sheep that's been sheared. And at the end of the day, misrabim nechasim. And now we're going to darshan the last three words in that pasuk in Yechezkel.